seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, here we go. The bus pulls back in. It's Monday night. The Monday Club is back together. Jonathan, before we even ask you how you are, I just need to make sure. Is that the real you?
Yes, it definitely is. I've gone for the Scott Brown approach ahead of the derby. I've had a wee haircut, got myself looking properly in shape for the game a week on Sunday.
Yep.
No, I'm good, mate. I'm good. How are you? I've got you a wee bad thing there.
Jonathan, I'm trying to decipher who I'm speaking to these days. I don't know if you're Jonathon John Boyce, Jonathon Van Boyce. It turns out you might even be Gareth Bale. Who knows, mate? Who knows? However, it is the Monday Club, and it feels like it's been a long time since we did a normal Monday Club, Jonathan, because we've done a couple of Tuesday episodes. Obviously, Walking Football got the better of me a couple of weeks ago. And we obviously had to combine it with post-match pish at a later time. So it's quite nice to be back in our regular slot on a Monday. And again, reflecting on yet another victorious weekend for the Celtic side. And we're going to talk about, obviously, the weekend's result. We'll talk a wee bit about yesterday's result, what it means in the title race, things like that. We'll look ahead to the fixtures upcoming. And anything else anyone can think of. As always, we put the debate open to the forum and we'll have a good chat with every single passenger on the bus. Before we get too much further forward, we'll always say a big thank you to fanboyfootball.com for sponsoring us. Fanboy Football have been massive in the latest developments, Jonathan. I don't know if you've seen this on Twitter, but we are getting closer and closer to the release date of the tees. There is no prizes for guessing that I would steal a pretty green style for the t-shirt. I don't know if you can see this okay.
Oh, here it comes. Liam Gallagher would be proud, Russell.
I think they look pretty cool. So that is on T if you're on the old Twitter page. I expect them to do very well, though. I really do. I think simplicity, Jonathan, simplicity, mate. But also pretty cool. And it's exciting times. I go to fanboyfootball.com and stuff like that. We are also in talks with someone else about live production, Jonathan. I know you've already accepted the gauntlet thrown down you to join us if that were to become a thing. So we will maybe have plans in the next few weeks or so for that to take off in the summer. I think that could be a lot of fun. I don't think we'll be selling out Nebworth anytime soon, Jonathan. But I think we could maybe get 50 people in a room. Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
wasn't built in a day, Russell. Start small.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. There is loads of people in the comments. Big names have joined us, which I love, by the way. I'm laughing at some of the comments flying. They are all crazy. But yeah, Jonathan, we are here to talk football, and that's what we're going to do. Anyone in the comments, feel free to comment. Do you know why? Because I like talking with every single one of you. I don't think I'm any better than you. And if you want to come on with a false name, I think if you believe that, you believe anything. As Charlie Mulgrew famously said, I think it was last season, you know, if you believe that wasn't him, you'll believe anything. I enjoy talking with every other passenger on the bus because they're not passengers. They're what makes the community so strong, Jonathan. So me and you are going to get cracking to it. Okay, we're going to get stuck right in. You were at the game, and we'll touch on that as well. Lucky you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I was working. It was quite a quiet day at work. I kind of got the benefit of not being too sidetracked whilst being able to take the game in. It was good. I was thoroughly impressed. It takes us up to 31 games. I think in my last pod, I was saying it was already 31 games on Friday. I'm sure now it is 31 games. Am I right?
Yeah,
Tell me I'm right.
31 now. It's hard to keep count when we keep putting this sort of run together. Everyone loses count.
This is it.
We're not mathematicians. We aren't paid to work this sort of stuff out.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But yeah, we're going to go with 31. Someone will come in the comments and say 32 now. I'm sure of it. But we're going to go with 31 games unbeaten. It is the longest run since Brendan Rodgers' invincible era, Jonathan. Can you even believe this comparison's been made already? Judging by Saturday, I feel Celtic's form's getting stronger. I actually think I know in terms of the points gap right now, we can't say we're pulling away because it still is 3 points, albeit the much better goal difference. We have to be very wary that can turn still. And it can turn. Yeah. But when we look at it positively, there's Scott Cameron already in 32. I hope I wasn't the source of information. I hope I wasn't the source for him though to think it was already 31 because that might be a problem as well. But yeah, back to the point I'm making. So I just feel that Celtic, albeit not in the points regard, and the goal difference remains okay. We've extended it, in fact, a fair bit the weekend. I feel Celtic's doing the equivalent of pulling away in the title race a bit so far based on form, not on points. Factually, the league is there to be won by either side. I totally concede that. Albeit I still think we're relative to strong favourites. I actually said at the weekend I believe Celtic will win the league now. And that's, you know, apparently it's ballsy saying stuff like that. Who cares? We're here to be ballsy. We're here to give opinion, you know? And I just think the form Celtic's actually shown, the Livingston result. I always go back to the second half against St Mirren. That's where they refound their mojo. Livingston was a knock-on effect of that. Tannadice was a knock-on effect of that. Yeah. Ross County got absolutely obliterated. Jonathan, we're in the form that wins you titles.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Ross County game, we just completely blew them away. We got that game done and dusted so early and so quickly. I was a throwback to earlier in the season when we were doing teams like that. And, you know, it could have really been anything on the day. Ross County could not handle us. And even you just seen every single player completely up for it. They know what's at stake here. You know, I think there's obviously now going to be this more competition. The squad is now almost back at full strength. Turnbull made a wee cameo, which was a bonus to see as well on Saturday. Kyogo is due back after the international break, potentially. Might even be on the bench against Rangers at Ibrox. Everything is now looking towards Celtic finally being at absolute full strength and full potential going into this run-in. And, you know, against Ross County on Saturday afternoon, there was just no danger that was ever going to be anything other than 3 points and a convincing win when you've seen how the team approached that from minute one. And to be fair, they didn't really let up too much. Fair enough, maybe slightly after they got the penalty and they went to 4-0. But even then, they were still doing the press and still putting the pressure onto County as well. And you can just tell there's a real hunger and a real desire amongst all of the players to actually make sure this championship ends up back at Celtic Park come the end of the season.
I think that's a great point about the hunger, the desire. I'm gonna try and show you the balance. I think that's making Celtic such favourites right now for me, and that is they're balancing the emotion of the competition, the emotion of the situation they're in. That's what I'm trying to say. The emotion of the situation they're in. It'd be easy though, Jonathon, just to play with heart and desire and determination, all this. I also think the performance is that they've got ice in their veins again. That's so important. They're playing so well right now. They're not winning games by hook or by crook or, by just, we got over the line. And whilst I always believe, over a 38-game season, right, you have to have games that you've won by getting there, rolling the sleeves up, digging deep. And those games are just as valuable as 3 points as what it is when you're winning, with convincing displays like the one against Ross County. But what I'm finding is right now, I think they're getting all of it just right. The recipe is really good right now. I think they absolutely understand the magnitude of winning this league, but I also think they now are able to remove the emotion from it a wee bit in terms of the actual displays, because again, that was clinical what we watched at the weekend, Jonathon. Clinical, ice cold. Yes, then we'll go into the emotion side. There was hunger. There was desire encapsulated by Chaos Giacomakis, and I don't care how many times I say his name between now and the end of the season, because he is the boy. But yeah, he's showing those aspects. But I also believe the display, Jonathon, showed a side that is very much in control of their own destiny. And this is what makes them. You combine all that. This is what makes that team strong favourites.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. I think a lot of it comes down to results at this point of the season. That's the most important thing, first and foremost. But if you're able to put on a performance like we have, I think it speaks volumes for the players, because this isn't a game in August, September where there's not really as much pressure on because there's so much left of the season to play, and and you're kind of playing a little bit with the shackles off. Everything is now at a stage in this point of the season where it is huge pressure on the players to win every game. It's the old cliche that every game is a cup final now at this stage of the season. And Celtic made that look so comfortable. And, going into the game, you're always thinking, this could end up being a bit nervy. You just don't know how things are going to play out. If we don't get the early goal, maybe this is going to be another one of these cagey games where it's going to be like Dundee United at home was earlier in the season, and we might need something late and scrappy. That was always a possibility. But as I say, from the moment this game actually kicked off, the way Celtic approached it, it never ever felt like that was ever going to be the case on Saturday, that Celtic were going to be in for a tough afternoon, because they applied themselves properly for the game. And you can just tell they are relishing the thought now of potentially winning this title. You've got to remember, most of these players have been written off already this season in terms of actually winning the league. They weren't expected to have a chance at the championship by most of the media, if not all of the media, back in August. And you're looking through that team, and it's easy to forget there's a lot of players in that Celtic team that have been over the course so many times, guys like your Tom Roderick, your Callum McGregor's, and everybody else that's been there. James Forrest, the list goes on. There's plenty of surefire title winners that are just used to winning. And I think that's almost been forgotten about because of how poor last season was. But, everything about that game all points towards, Celtic looking in a very strong position. And it does now really pile the pressure onto the other half of the city, because for me, if Rangers don't win at Ibrox, Celtic will win the league.
Well, there's been comments coming in agreeing slightly with that as well, Jonathon, to be honest with you, particularly over the weekend shows. I think that it's an interesting take on it, because the more we all say it, right, and the more we all say, win at Ibrox, we've won the league, the more pressure we're almost putting on us. Whereas I really believe the beauty of the fixture at Ibrox is the fact that all the pressure's on them. They have to win to remain in this. But I just don't want us turning it into if we win that, we win the league, and it putting almost unfair pressure on what I feel is a situation that we've played masterfully to get into, and now can literally rock up and govern and take it or leave it, because destiny will still be in our hands. That puts a hell of a lot of pressure on the opposition. Now, the other thing about it is Celtic, since we last spoke after the Scottish Cup match, we're going to have that to look forward to as well just now. I'd see no issues with us juggling those two competitions. Our rivals are obviously still in 3. I don't know if that hampers them or not, but the honest truth is, whilst that will get wheeled out as the usual excuse, for me, it's actually a case of, Jonathon, it's all about what Celtic do. It's all about what Celtic do between now and the end of the season, not them. 7 cup finals, Liam Collow was saying earlier, and I agree with that. It is 7 cup finals, but the only thing about the 7 cup finals is the next cup final, in actual fact, is a cup final that we can win without winning. I think even if we draw that, they are going to be shitting themselves. They have to win. And now that's not the position we're in going into that game. But I do take it on board. Obviously, every game, the magnitude of them all, they are like that. But I just thought it was so positive to see what is essentially an extremely young side as well. And it is an extremely young side, Jonathon, over the piece. When you look at the first 11, take Joe Hart out. Is there any other player over 30? I don't think so.
No, they're all probably, the next one's probably around 30. Probably got James Forrest when he plays, he's around 30, and that's about it.
And I think that's quite fascinating, because I think the know-how at times sometimes can be a really, really good aspect to bring into or to have in your squad, that balance in terms of experience, youthful excitement and adventure that some of them bring. I think all that balances really well. But what I do feel is the side's shown an evil streak, if you like. It's there's real clarity in these performances, Jonathon. This is a side that now seem to know how to get the job done. And I think, again, they were a wee bit under pressure at half-time against St Mirren, and they came out and were really assured that second half, put in a far, far better display and proved they could win under the cosh. They went to Livingston under heavy pressure, a huge 2006, whatever it's been, boring record everyone's going on about. They came out trumps. Seriously impressive that day. They go to Tannadice, Scottish Cup, but a Monday night, potential banana skin, scooshed it. Ross County, flying right now, in the form of their lives, going for a top 6 spot, which is credit to them, by the way. And again, another fixture with so few left now, but there's a hell of a lot of pressure on us. We did it. We did it again. But this time, I thought Celtic turned the screw a wee bit in terms of they were showing flashbacks, hallmarks, Jonathon, of the first half of the season.
Yeah, no, they definitely were. As I say, the performance was exactly what you would want at this point of the season, to really make a statement, to your rivals and to everybody else, saying that, if we're going to be winning these games, we want to be winning them as convincingly as we possibly can. And let's bear in mind, we're talking a lot of stake for Celtic over the next 7 games, but you're looking at this league title and this league season, and I've never seen a league that's been quite like this in terms of how close it is for the other teams. There's only one team, I think, in this league that's got nothing really to play for, and that's Hearts. Every game you're playing against at the moment, Ross County are still fighting for top 6, might still end up finishing 4th for all we know. And it'll be the same when we play St Johnstone in terms of they're in a relegation scrap. So they're total other end of the season. They're other end of the table, looking to get points to avoid the drop. And then once you get past the split, you're going to be playing again. Another 3 teams that are still going to be going for a European place on top of obviously the rivals. And then obviously you've got the game against Hearts, which Hearts won't have as much riding on it. But I've never seen a league championship where it's been quite like this in terms of high stakes for every club involved, and that does get more out of the teams you're playing against as well, because they've still got something to compete for there too, and that's something to bear in mind, is that Celtic are taking care of business with aplomb just now. This isn't a case they're playing Ross County who are consigned to bottom 6 and, aren't going to be getting relegated and are just going to sit and finish 10th
Exactly.
or whatever. This was a proper competitive match. And Celtic made it so straightforward. It was really refreshing to see. And as I say, at this point of the season, you are kind of thinking it would be understandable in some ways if nerves were to set in and it was an edgy or sort of game. But, Celtic are just approaching the games extremely well at the moment with the right frame of mind. And I think it's all boiling down to the fact they've got a point to prove now to actually see this one over the line. And, the game's coming up. You're looking at, obviously, Rangers next, which, as we've touched upon, is looking like being a crunch game. And you've rightly said, even if Celtic were to lose at Ibrox, it isn't necessarily going to be curtains for us in the title race by a long shot. We'll still most likely be top of the league anyway because of goal difference. So we're still in a really good place. Even if we were to lose at Ibrox, we could still go on and win the league. And then even once you get past that game, win, lose or draw, Celtic are going to be ended up finishing the season with a fair number of home games. They should only actually really have, I think, 2 away games, after they go to Ibrox. If the split works the way it should, which that's another story, might not. But, if it works the way it does, and you're looking at, more home games than not, which you would like to think would again give Celtic that advantage, because a big thing about Ross County was the fact that Celtic enjoyed playing on a proper good surface, and Celtic Park was in mint condition on Saturday, and it's just so much better for our team to be playing on a surface like that than some of the sort of pitches you're going to away from home. Yeah, I was just about to say that Tannadice was an absolute mud patch the other week, so it makes a huge difference there too.
Shite.
Yeah,
absolutely shite, Jonathan. Absolutely shite playing on surface like that. I mean, I know the winters and that are tough in Scotland, but you've got to go. There's a wee bit of like gamesmanship going on there as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, how is it in such a bad nick?
Definitely. And then the funniest thing is they'll turn around and then complain that Scottish football's absolute shite and the national team's no good. So no wonder they're playing on shite like this every week. What chance have we actually given the national team? That's unbelievable.
Because half your tactics are to stop the footballing team play football. You tell me how backward that is in 2022, but who cares? Their problem, not ours. We're still now, as I say, the ice is in the veins. We're getting the job done, and we're showing, doing it, like I say, with a bit of style now as well. I don't know how many. 7 goals in the last 2 games?
Yes, it will be.
Was it 3 at the Spaghetti had as well?
3 at Livingston, yeah.
10 in the last 3, mate. We're in form right now. We are in form. Now, you were at the game like we were talking about, Jonathan. Now, obviously, it looked, I've got to say, the aesthetics of Celtic Park in the sun towards the end of a season. I always prefer that to the start of the season. I don't know why. I love the vibe when you watch it in the cameras. Everyone's excited again. Summertime's coming back, and there's just the sight of Celtic Park full to the brim with the sun shining on it and Celtic putting a dazzling display like they did. There's not many better sights in sport. I love it. Now, what was your most pleasing aspect, though, from the game? I'm being a wee bit trivial about stuff like that. I mean, I did the show Post-Match Pish on Saturday. We had Phil McGinley on, Bruce FM, Bruce McDade, as he's known. I mean, both of them and myself are raving about Giakoumakis' display. I think everyone wants to be vindicated in life when they throw their neck in the line, Jonathan. I don't generally even care so much about that. It was just the Pish that I heard he was 4th choice. Apparently, they'd been saying it just the day before. That made me laugh. I think in regards to Giakoumakis, as big a plus point as he was, what else made you tick, Jonathan, after that game? What was your highlights of that display? And I don't just mean the scoreline.
Yeah, obviously, it's no surprise just to first touch upon the fact about the goals over the last few games. It's not surprising that's happening when you're looking at the form Giakoumakis has been in. It's no shock that the bulk of those 10 goals will have been scored by him, because he's really came on to a game as of now, and he was excellent again, took his hat-trick really well in the game. I actually thought Maeda, I thought was actually one of his best performances in a Celtic top. I think, again, he's came in for a little bit of unfair criticism of late, Maeda. I think sometimes people seem to be taking it as if you're either Team Giakoumakis or your Team Maeda, and it's not really as if you can like them both. I thought Maeda work rate again exceptional. I think that sometimes goes unnoticed. He was still chasing down the goalkeeper about 88 minutes when they're 4-0 up.
Scary.
Most people would have just given up by that point in the game. Certainly wouldn't see me running. Not that I can run anyway, but you certainly wouldn't. Even if I could be running at that point in the game, I'd be taking a wee breather. But he's just continually showing just how good a player he is. I feel in the middle of the park we're still showing a lot of maturity there. I thought Tati was actually had a much better game. I think he was needing a little break, and I think he was looking a lot fitter, a lot better. I just felt I wouldn't feel there was anybody else that really was a proper stand, because I feel the whole team did extremely well. To be fair, I don't think there was a single. I don't think there was a single player I could turn around to you and say, "Oh, this is this person was just okay." I think everyone carried their weight, and as I say, I think the other plus for me is actually seeing Turnbull getting a wee cameo as well, because I think David Turnbull's been often forgotten about, and as you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I think he might not still be, but he was our top scorer midfielder, certainly in the first half of the season, and he might well still be even now. So I think that's another one to be excited about, and that was probably another highlight for me, was seeing him coming back and getting into the game. And I just felt, the whole sort of dynamics of it, the Celtic Park under the sunshine, playing as well as that, was like a throwback to the good old days where Celtic were doing teams like this. And it just means that, we are now, as I say, in such a strong position, because we knew what we had to do by winning that game against Ross County. We knew we were going to have at least a 3-point lead in place going into the derby. We took care of business. We did it with aplomb. We actually improved our goal difference. There was absolutely nothing to be negative about. It was just another excellent performance all round, really.
It certainly was, Jonathan. I was enthused by, as I say, the display of Giakoumakis up top. And it's not just because he scored a hat-trick. We were talking about the impact that Maeda and Giakoumakis. I mean, you started this conversation last Monday on Post-Match Pish. Had they started together before? I don't think so. When you get Chaos, Giakoumakis, and Danger, Maeda together, it equals bedlam. And that is what happened. It was bedlam. They're a defender's nightmare. Giakoumakis doesn't give his opposite number a minute's peace, but he's willing to throw him about like a rag doll as well. Do you know what I mean? He loves that physical aspect. Maeda is a nightmare for the goalkeeper, even when he gets the ball passed back to him, because you could just see him, beep, beep, coming flying towards him. He's a nightmare for a fullback, Jonathan, who's getting the ball under even a wee bit of pressure because the pace Maeda's running at them. His counterpart, winger on the other team, has got to constantly be looking over his shoulder if he's got the ball, because not only has he got one of our defenders, our fullback, like a Greg Taylor, for example, in front of him, but Maeda will be coming back to try and nick the ball from round the corner as well. I mean, that work rate, that ethic that they've both shown has been absolutely phenomenal, and has actually done so well to make up for the absence of Kyogo, as we always call him, Kyogo. And I just felt that, the Giakoumakis stuff is easy to be, overindulgent in the praise, but he thoroughly deserves all the credit he gets. I also think as well, all of that as well, I think you've got to be honest and say with Giakoumakis, I mean, this guy is a thoroughbred goal scorer, Jonathan, who came at the right time for Celtic, as opposed to, necessarily the right time for him. When was the last time we scored a guy 26 years old, 7 goals clear in the Eredivisie? I mean, that, even his age combined with all that as well, you're going right in at the peak of his powers, and we got him for a relegation release clause fee, as opposed to what he actually normally would have cost in normal circumstance. It should be no surprise, really, how well he's doing. The Maeda display, though, the reason I'm bringing this up, I want your thoughts on this, because one of the questions that came in at the weekend, and I'm not backing down on this, I'm doubling down, because I agree. I believe that next season's front three will be Kyogo, Danger Maeda, and Chaos Giakoumakis up top.
Well, it could very well be. I mean, he's not going to be short on options up front, put it that way, particularly if he signs Jota on it permanently. He's going to have plenty of options to play both out wide and through the middle. So that would certainly be an interesting one. I would be very interested to see how that played out. I definitely would want to see Kyogo and George link up. I think Giakoumakis and Kyogo could be a frightening combination for any SPL defender to be going up against. I don't think anyone would relish the prospect of playing against those two up top. You add in a Maeda as well, and you've almost got two guys that are just swarming you constantly in Maeda and Kyogo, and then you've got Giakoumakis just ready and waiting for the ball to come in, and he's just going to be the guy who's going to be that clinical finisher out of the three of them. It'll be interesting, I think, once Kyogo gets fit. I know you're obviously talking about next season there, and that's what you think the first three would be. Would you run with that if Kyogo gets fit before the end of the season? Would you put those three in? Would you keep Jota?
I think firstly, it shows the strength and options. So I'll be very careful before I go down the road of telling you, yes, all right, already have. But what I mean is, I feel as though it's not a slight on any player that were to miss out. I just happen to think that Angie's strategy has always been for Giakoumakis to be the striker. That is what I think is now shining through. This was always part of the plan. A lot of people right now are doing comparisons with the role Tim Cahill played for Australia under Postecoglou, another fine header of the ball, a workhorse up front, etc., and obviously an eye for goal. And they feel that like what he's doing is a very similar template to that, with Giakoumakis being at the forefront of it. Kyogo was signed, Jonathon, not to be a striker, I don't think. I think he became our striker through default. What a job, by the way, he's done. He's been incredible up there. I mean, even for me, it doesn't seem right if I was to take him out that position, such as the success that he had. But if I'm honest, I think Angie's dream front three would be Kyogo or Maeda on the left, or Kyogo, Maeda on the right, Giakoumakis through the middle. I think that's the style of football that Ange Postecoglou wants. I think he wants absolute havoc up there by three guys willing to run themselves into the ground. Two of a certain style, of vintage, if you like, in terms of being all about pace. Not because they can't do anything with the ball either, by the way. I just mean their main asset, or one of their main assets, is pace. And the other one, who's got just as great a work rate, but has to be about the physical side and cause a different headache, a different problem for the defence. I think that would be his ideal front three. Now, if I'm right on that, not saying I am, but if I am right on that, I mean, you bring Jota into the mix of that, Jonathon, or you've got a guy of Jota's ability on the bench, or Maeda's ability on the bench, or Abada's ability on the bench. The fucking options are endless. James Forrest, who we've defended plenty of times on the show. Elfin's saying I've forgotten Jota exists. It's far from it. What I'm doing, Elfin, is talking up the three other guys that I think fit Angie's template. Absolutely not forgetting about Jota. Everyone's got their fingers crossed. He will be a permanent fixture at Celtic, come the summer. I hope he is. But I just feel, I don't know why, and again, I could be completely wrong, but I think Angie's dream front three would be the two guys with electric pace and an eye for goal themselves, both of them. One's a top scorer for the J-League, one's our current top scorer, and then have the physical power up front, the focal point. And I remember we went to the Aberdeen game, Jonathon, and how many times we said airy-fairy crosses that are no good for Kyogo going in the box. They probably looked more airy-fairy, such as the fact they're not his style of ball. You bring chaos into the mix, and when I say chaos, I mean Giakoumakis.
Well, you see how much it paid off on Saturday with him. I would say a couple of the goals are from crosses. So, we even scored direct from a corner, which just doesn't happen very often at all. So it's a rare moment that we get to enjoy one of those. So definitely, I think, as I say, if you were to put the three of them up front, it would be a very interesting and exciting combination to put there. I think especially when you touch upon the pace of, Kyogo and Maeda. They're both very intelligent footballers as well. They know how to find the space where for players, in the creative zones to actually find them. Like your Callum McGregor must love playing with them because he's able to thread perfect balls through because of the runs they're making for him. So I think, in terms of that side of things, there's definitely a lot of potential there if that's how the route he wants to go down. I think a lot of people obviously probably still argue Kyogo could do the job through the middle. I would say, that's probably where we've seen him play his best football so far for Celtic. He has played out wide a little bit and probably not been quite as hot as he was through the front. But I think, obviously at this point in the season now with Kyogo, if he was to get himself back fit before the end of the season, which by all means is looking more and more likely he will be, then, you've got that option there that once again you can either put him out wide, with a more confident team as well. Let's not forget, Kyogo was pretty much having to carry Celtic at times in the first half of that season. And if he wasn't playing well, Celtic weren't playing well. It was as simple as that. In certain games, especially the ones where we were drawing blanks,
often
they just didn't look like there was any other way we were scoring if he wasn't playing well. Whereas now there's a team full of confidence there for him to slot back into. He's not got as much pressure on knowing there's other players now in and around him that can turn a game on its head if we need them and when the chips are down. So I think you could now put him back into a wide position because you've got Chaos Giakoumakis fit through the middle, and it wouldn't be too big an issue. I think obviously as well, though, you've still got all those other options. You've got your Jota, you've got Abada, you've got Forrest. There's so many options now. It's quite frightening if he gets his full squad fit. And, there's so many different combinations he could put together. And I don't think there'd be anyone that would have any complaints over them because all the players really in those front three sort of positions that have been playing there this season have all done a job at some point or another. Forrest perhaps not quite as much, but even then, James Forrest still scored the goal that got us to the League Cup final. And, he's still got a side to him, and I thought against Dundee United he had a really good cameo as well. So there's just so many different ways Ange could choose to play it, and it must be a nightmare if you're the opposition manager having to try and work out which of these three he's going to go with because he has just got all the aces in the hole there as to who he wants to put up front. And I think it'll be very interesting to see who he decides to go with when he does have Kyogo fit, which hopefully, as I say, will be after the international break, and he will have a part to play in the Rangers game.
Oh, I agree with you. Before we go any further, I'm just going to quickly say, I've seen a couple of comments from Scott Howe. Hope you're all right, mate. I know you were saying it's the anniversary of one of your mates passing away or whatever. So just a wee big up to you, big man. Hope you're all good.
Yeah, thinking of you.
Top lad. Ryan McGinley comes in. I don't know if it's the Ryan McGinley. He's a regular contributor on Ryan 118. Top lad. Enjoy his content. It's good content, Jonathon. The Celtic, the Thunder. Makes me laugh. It's in a good way. Just relatable young lads. Remind me of being 10 years younger. My heyday, Jonathon. Which, as you now know...
10 years that you've been a bit generous there, Ryan.
It's long gone now. It might be something like that. Ryan McGinley says, how we doing, lads? Giakoumakis thrives on chaos. This is why we call him Chaos Giakoumakis, Ryan. He loves the big bully. He says we've not had a player like him since Jan. I would go further than that. See, if I'm completely honest, right? I actually think Big Jan is a bit of a softie compared to Giakoumakis. No disrespect, because Jan gave me great moments. I was a big fan of Jan, very good ace. Like, even before he'd signed, I remember he'd scored at Ellen Road for PSV Eindhoven. I don't know, Jonathon, that's me showing that age again. But I remember that, and he was a big signing when Celtic got him from PSV. And I thought he gave us a lot of good memories, but I don't remember him having the same physical aspect as what Giakoumakis does. And probably, if I'm honest, I actually think Chaos Giakoumakis looks slightly, if not the best technique in the world, I still think he looks like he has got one hell of an eye for goal. I was reading today, apparently in his first 10 starts, he's only had 17 shots on goal, scored 10 of them, and has 5 assists. It's a stupid record.
Stats.
Yeah, or maybe it's 12 goals in 10 starts. Maybe it's that. I think it was 12 goals in 10 starts. Aye, because they were comparing it with Henrik's record, obviously, which is pointless, really, because it's different eras, different times, and different styles of football. But his stats alone, I was drawn to just out of the genuine, wow, that is impressive. Jason Stewart lets us know the Queen's 11 is ready for you, and the red hand will rule. Get it right up, you. Jason, mate, the Queen's 11. You don't seriously call your own team the Queen's 11, do you?
The Queen didn't seem to like them very much about 10 years ago. I'm pretty sure her revenue and customs had some bills they wanted paid.
Well,
I knew they paid them eventually. I don't know. I don't follow it that closely, Russell.
No, unless she was a face painter, I don't think anyone got paid much. You know what I mean? Right. Ryan McGinley, we met in Gracie's. Boy, say it's the real me. Yes, mate, legend. He was a good lad. Good lad. Good quiff. And their pod, the Celtic Thunder, it's fast forwarded its way right up my agenda, Jonathon, the past sort of couple of months. You can't help it. They're infectious characters. They're always hungover. I know the feeling. I became a godfather yesterday, which is crazy. Like, crazy choice, guys, but I'm honoured. I am privileged, but you could probably hear my voice. I probably had a couple too many Marlboro Lights with my pints yesterday, so I'm a wee bit... You know what I mean. Right, Jonathon, what else was I going to talk about? International break. Does my nutting. Does my boxing. Every time he comes round, do you feel like it's a worry, Jonathon, the amount of players that we've got away, or do you think because of the options we've just listed on and on there a minute ago, mate, that actually we'll be fine because we've got about 17 options for the front three? You know, we're gonna eat our own words here, aren't we? I see it and I worry. I mean, I know people are up in arms about Ralston. I think from a Celtic persuasion, if we take the Scotland hat off for a minute, I think it's good that he's not in the squad, you know, because we've got, realistically, for that right-back slot, we've got two players that are competing with each other for it. I actually don't think there's been much between them. I know Juranovic gets the love bombing. And Ralston's became a bit of the cult status, to be fair to him. They're loved in different ways. I actually think what I've seen on the park right now, I don't feel it's as night and day between those two players as many others do. I feel, though, if both were going away on international duty, it would just be sods law that both of them had to pick up some sort of knock. So the fact that we've got Ralston there gives us an insurance policy. Carl Starfelt's another one going away, Jonathon. I want to talk to you about him very quickly. You can come in on the right-back situation as well. We'll just look at the defence as a whole, and then you can come in. We'll do that. Starfelt, away with Sweden. I think it's a well-deserved call-up for him. Again, will he start for them? Unlikely, so he's probably going to come back unscathed, but with his confidence boosted a bit that he's now getting back into the international fold, I think he's in solid form for us. And Greg Taylor's the other one at left back. Again, I think that'll be a position that they target in the summer to strengthen. Again, I think it'll be based on Ange looking at Taylor and saying, I want it to have the same effect it's had on Tony Ralston, for example. I know Taylor's very much more in the picture than Ralston is right now, but I think you could bring in another Croatian international left back, not Barisic, but you know what I mean, a country of that sort of pedigree. If Ange has got his wee eye out and he can find a player that could come in, a left back for the £3-4 million back that's ready made, I think you might see an improvement in Taylor as well. Again, I don't think his international call-up's a negative. What do you make of that so far, Jonathon? Because the last thing we want, you know, before the next game is Ibrox, everyone's describing it as either a cup final or we describe it as one they have to win. Whatever it may be, it's a fucking massive game, right? International call-ups are a worry.
Yeah, no, they definitely are. I think particularly, the Scotland game's even more frustrated now because of the situation. Obviously, they're not even going to be playing an actual playoff game. It's just a friendly against Poland, so you'd be really frustrated if one of your players gets picked up a knock, in a friendly game. Let alone when it's, if these are, qualify for the World Cup, then it's a bit more understandable. But if something was to happen in a friendly, you'd be kicking yourself, you'd be tearing your hair out if you were Ange Postecoglou at something like that happening. Looking across the back line, I think I would agree with Starfelt. Definitely will help his confidence getting back into the Sweden team. He's definitely came onto a game again. He's another one that gets a lot of criticism thrown his way, which I don't always think is actually deserved of Carl Starfelt either. But, I think he's really improved as a footballer as the season's gone on. I think he is very much a confidence player, and I think his confidence is now much higher than it was, 4 or 5 months ago. And you can tell he slots in quite nicely into the team, and he's not going to get budged out. I think there was a point where I think everyone was kind of counting down the days until Julian was back, and possibly that would have been your option to have replaced Starfelt with Julian, but now it looks very unlikely that that would happen. So I think for him going away with Sweden, I think that's a good move there. I think Greg Taylor going away with Scotland, I don't see any harm there. I'm not entirely sure if he'll get much game time anyway, given who he's up against for those left back slots. Although granted, it is a friendly, they might decide to mix it up a wee bit and give other players a rest. Even then, I still don't see that as being a major issue. And again, when it comes to Tony Ralston, I don't really think there's something about Steve Clarke that suggests to me he doesn't like Ralston much, given how little he's actually called him up, which is a bit surprising considering. I would say. Sorry.
I know. I'm listening.
Oh, I was just asking a question there.
I was giving verbal agreements there, Jonathan. I were meant to just be nods, and I kind of just was like, yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you. But Ralston for me is that he's somebody that for some reason I don't think Stephen Clarke's completely taken to yet, and I think that is why he is struggling a bit more to get into the team. But I do think at right back he should certainly be in the squad for Scotland, because I don't think Scotland's blessed with a wealth of good right backs in their squad.
Talk about Hickey now, eh? Talk about Hickey now for the right back. That's why he's been called up apparently. Yeah, he's apparently been. I know. It's a funny one. It's a funny one. I mean, he's a player that was touted, Jonathan Hickey, as someone that maybe could be that guy to come in and, push Taylor or take the jersey off Taylor and push Taylor into trying to win it back, sort of thing. But I would be priced out of Aaron Hickey now. I think in Scotland right now there seems to have been a bit of hate on Aaron Hickey because he rejected the under-21s. I don't know what the PR that the SFA do at times. They've got Scott Gemmell coming out. I know we're going off for a wee bit of a tangent here, but Scott Gemmell's coming out going, his situation's not changed. That's what he says, it's not changed. So that's why we couldn't call him up. 2 weeks later, he's called up for the senior squad. So it's like, well, the situation obviously had changed. And obviously you knew he wasn't going to be considered for the under-21s if he's going to be in the senior one. And I thought that all that did was create a bad name for Aaron Hickey, like he's not interested in Scotland stuff, which I think's pointless and just shows you lack of organisation at the top, really. There should have just been a message sent out there, he's not going to be in the 21 squad for X, Y, and Z. And then, then do the announcement that he's in the senior squad. I think he's one that we've missed out on a wee bit, if I'm honest. I think anyone who's played more minutes in the top 5 European leagues than anyone else under 21. I think, that's Aaron Hickey. I think Celtic have missed one there from under their noses. But I do think players going away in international duty, Jonathan, like Greg Taylor, for example, is a good thing for the likes of him. I think you need to try and keep him confident. Do you know what I mean? I think Starfelt. Do you know what he's done with Starfelt? Ryan McGinley was coming back in saying he actually thinks he's outperformed Cameron Carter-Vickers of late. I don't know if that's even more of a compliment to Carter-Vickers just because we're that used to him being that Rolls Royce at the back. Yes. But what I would say about the two of them is they've definitely benefited from Angie's faith and trust in a partnership at the back, a foundation for the team. And Angie's been so reluctant to make any sort of rotation in that area. I think that's really came back and benefited Cameron Carter-Vickers, and particularly, I think, Carl Starfelt's form. What have you made?
I think it's paid dividends, hasn't it, really? Because, you're looking at it and you're kind of thinking it would have been very easy for him to have certainly when it came to Starfelt, when he was getting peppered with abuse. League Cup final springs to mind. It wasn't one of his better games, and there was a few others at that point of the season where there was opportunities there. If he'd wanted to take Starfelt out because he hadn't been playing well, then I don't think many of the fans would have complained if he had decided to give something like a Stephen Welsh an opportunity there and tried to mix it up a little bit. But you could tell Postecoglou is very shrewd. I think he's one of these guys. He knows how to get the best out of players on an individual, personal sort of level, as well as obviously being able to be a very good footballing coach, as he's proven over the last number of months. But he certainly has that ability to win people over, similar to what Rodgers was like. I think he's got a similar sort of impression on people that Brendan
Yeah.
Rodgers used to have, and the fact that, you know, players will now run through brick walls for him because he is just that good at motivating his players, and working out what is going to be the best things to do in certain situations. And I think he always trusted Carl Starfelt to come good. And, you know, he's ended up backing him, not just backing him once, but he's doubled down on him, as we say on the bus.
Oh, there it is. Boom, boom, boom.
And, you know, when he's doubled down on him, Starfelt has taken that opportunity and he's seized it with both hands. And, you know, now it's just a case that he's not going to lose that spot unless he's injured or suspended. So you have to tip your hat to Ange there. Again, it's another brilliant example of really good management there, especially when you consider that I think so many of even our own fans would have probably taken Starfelt out early in the season. And if he'd done that, could have absolutely crippled his confidence and he might not have been able to recover.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Kerr comes in. I think this is a common thought process across the sport still. Carl Starfelt has a costly mistake in him. I hope I'm wrong. Chris, I get it. I think at times he makes mistakes that make him look though worse than what he is. I think he just has an ungainly way about him sometimes where he'll sort of rock back in his heels a wee bit and things, or if he's trying to play a simple ball, he's leaning back as he plays it, and his whole coordination just looks just a wee bit amiss. But what I would say as well is it's been one hell of a lot of games since he did make one of those costly mistakes. And I wonder if really we're waiting on him making a costly mistake where the law of averages dictate if you're playing at centre-back for such an attacking set-up side like Celtic are, then mistakes may well happen that are costly at some stage rather than the other. But, you know, the flip side of that is 31 games unbeaten right now domestically, and Carl Starfelt's, you know, played a huge, huge part in that. In terms of most minutes in those 31 games, he'd be right up the pecking order, if not at the top, which, you know, with Joe Hart, which is frightening. Ryan's back in again, and he's saying, what's your thoughts on Julien, guys? Now, we spoke about Julien at length a couple of months ago. Now, personally, he thinks he'll be gone in the summer. He says we should try get his wages off the books so we can get more Ange, in inverted commas, players in, which I totally understand. What I would also say, why the fuck is Ange? Why is Julien not an Ange player right now? I think he's very comfortable on the ball. I like the way he can pass the ball forward, you know, various lengths, Jonathon. I think he brings a physical aspect to Celtic that maybe not as much we've noticed of late, but I think we can still benefit hugely from, particularly in both boxes. Now, I know they listened to the Boyce'S, Jonathon. They worked on those set pieces during the week off last week because we're getting more creative with them, which is great to see. But I also think if you are going to have to punt a ball in the box for a corner kick, Jonathon, with 3 minutes to go, Julien's one hell of a weapon to have there. Starfelt, who we've just sung his praises, is still on 0 goals this season. You know, Julien's guaranteed between 5 and 10 each year. I have a feeling, though, Ryan's right. I think he will be gone in the summer. I'm a bit disappointed as Julien was someone I had I liked him. I don't know. Maybe I was biased. I don't know. I'd signed him in one of the updated championship managers like the year before he signed for Celtic. So I kind of felt like, I'm ahead of the curve because then Celtic signed him. And I wonder if that plays a part in it. And I've always had a sort of liking for him. It feels like the longer this season goes on and his involvement becomes less and less likely. And what would also counter with that is less and less relevant as we win games. The less of a talking point it becomes his absence, the easier it is to shift him on come the summer. If Celtic are to get the job done in the league title race, which, again, like I say, I believe we will. I'm not saying it's a stick-on guaranteed or anything like that. I believe now Celtic could win the league. I think you've been a strong bargaining position to let go of what was an expensive import like Julien, with it going under the radar more if you were to let him go on the back of a trophy success. I don't think Ryan's miles off the money in thinking that he may well depart. I think he's got his first 2 centre-halves. I also think as well, Ange just likes signing his own players. You know, you look at Callum McGregor aside, Tony Ralston, he's completely treating like one of his own signings, right? That is obvious, right? That's like, you know, you didn't expect him to come good. Greg Taylor, I think he'll improve that position, as I've already said. And then throughout the rest of the team, you know, Tom Rogic is Australian, there's a bit of loyalty there. But everywhere else, he's adding his own guys in. He wants his own guys. And it wouldn't surprise me if the third option for centre-half won't be Liam Scales Welsh will remain at 4th choice, and it'll be an Ange player to come in and compete with CCV. And his name's Starfelt. Just been speaking to him for about half an hour. Starfelt at CCV will be the main two next year, with someone to come in with a push that I think has Ange qualities about him.
Yeah, there's every chance that might be the way they go, and I think Ryan makes a good point, because Julian won't be on a small wage packet either. You know, if he's playing, and then you've really got to consider getting rid of him at the end of the day, because he's too costly a player to be having just sitting on your bench every week. I think one of the things, I guess, as well, though, is as we've just touched upon, he's probably not wanting to really mix his centre backs about too much, considering how well they've done. It's not a position that's always the easiest to get back into. Obviously, we don't know, like saying, how significant this injury has been for Julian and how long the recovery has actually taken. Certainly seems to be a few issues with his fitness there, I would say, in any event, which may well lead to Postecoglou deciding to punt him in the summer as well, truth be told. I do still think if you got Julian fully fit, then he does have something to offer Celtic, and I do think he's still a very good option. And obviously, I guess it will also depend as well what happens in the summer with Carter Vickers, because remember, he's only on loan. Still have to seal that deal. If he was to end up going back to Spurs, then I don't see Julian going anywhere, because it would be up to him to then try and make that step up to potentially being back in the first team for the next season, if Carter Vickers isn't hanging around. So it'll be a difficult one. I think this summer is going to be absolutely crucial for Julian now, and determining what he wants to do next, because he's another one of your experienced players you're really talking about in the squad, which we've touched upon. There isn't an awful lot of them, but Julian must be about 30 years old, is he, roughly? So 29, 30, whatever it is. So yeah, he's again another one of these guys, and he looks like a leader when he was playing before he got injured, well, like the kind of guy who could have became Celtic captain before he got injured too. So I think it'll be interesting with Julian. I'm not entirely sure I'd write him off quite yet, but I think the summer is going to be absolutely critical for him in terms of really knuckling down in pre-season if he's going to have any opportunity of getting back into that Celtic starting 11. And then I think it'll all just depend what happens with the rest of the defence at that time as to how big an opportunity he's going to have.
Well, David Kelly comes in, and again, thank you to everyone who's watching on YouTube. We've got 130 live on a Monday night. Not bad. Hopefully you are all who you say you are. It's funny that imposter's not been back since Friday. And trust me, that was...
Are you questioning some people's state of mind, Russell?
I'm questioning the state of a lot of things to do with him, to be honest with you. But anyway, David Kelly, a regular viewer, he's hit subscribe. He knows the drill. If you've not already, and you're a Ryan McGinley, for example, who I've not seen in the comments before live, hit subscribe. Give us a wee like. It does help. I hate pushing all that shite, but apparently I should be more proactive with it. So there we go. That's that bit done. Now, David is saying Starfelt and Welsh in the Champions League next season. Now, I suppose the way I was talking when I was discussing whether it be a possibility Julian could depart in the summer, I'm saying it like it's a foregone conclusion. CCV signs. That's just because he's been that steady, mate. I just expect the next steady step for him to be signing on the dotted line. I think Cameron Carter-Vickers and Jota are obviously priority signings for Ange come this summer. I think winning the league again, it's going to go back to that a wee bit. If you're getting £40 million guaranteed Champions League football, it flips it a wee bit on at the board. You know, if those two players aren't signed, sealed, delivered, we're all going to say, well, you should have pushed the boat out. Because the thing is, with footballers these days, Jonathan, they're very clever at spinning a narrative that makes them look good. And you can see it now. Jota signing for, I don't know, Olympiacos or something, right? And sitting going, I did everything I could to stay at Celtic, but, you know, they weren't willing to put the financial package together or whatever. And it all looking really, really grim if we were to win the league. So I think winning the league is really crucial in those two signings, because it's then really a case of over to the board. And if he's got doubts, convince him otherwise. You've got the.
I think if they win the league, though, Russell, as well, and that there's really it would be a bit of a disaster if they weren't to sign them to be
Of course.
perfectly frank, because, you know, there's no reason why the players would want to go elsewhere, because they're going to get an opportunity to test themselves against some of the best players in world football and experience Celtic Park on a European night. It's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer as far as I'm concerned on that. So, you know, if Celtic were to win the league and then they aren't going to push the boat out to sign those players, what's the point even playing in the Champions League? You know, you've got to give yourself the best opportunities to actually go there and compete. Champions League is you know, notoriously been difficult for Scottish clubs for a number of years now. So, you know, if you win the league and you're not going to try and equip yourself properly for it, then Christ, what is the point in even being in it half the time? And I think that's a lesson that Celtic haven't learned as much over the last 10 years. It's one that there's a recurring theme that has happened before. I just don't think it'll be the same this time around. I think if Celtic were to go on and win this championship, I'd expect both of those players to be at Celtic next season.
Well, that's the key. The key is the players. I know the first option thing is always going to come in, right? And I think, yes, absolutely. It's brilliant having the first option on players, but the player gets the final say. It's a player power football environment that we operate in now, Jonathon. Football is run by the players. They play for their brand, not so much the club. You know, that's the honest truth. They're all, you know, individuals in football these days, you know, self-promoting, if you like, that happen to be playing in the same strip as 10 other guys. That's the way I see, particularly the likes of English football, Champions League football. Now, what could happen, though, is Jota has got an agent in his ear going, we know you've got first option, but listen to us, yada, yada. And the reason I said Olympiacos, because I don't even know why, just like a Champions League side that's not like top 5 leagues. That's what I was thinking, because that would annoy us more, because we'd think we were on a par with them. That was why that example was used. And that's why it would be so frustrating if they weren't got over the line. I think Celtic, you're absolutely right. They need to be proactive in this, and all eyes will turn on them this time when we'll go, right, okay, so you don't sign players for Champions League qualifiers. We now don't have any qualifiers because we've qualified, and you still don't sign players. All eyes will be on them, and particularly with the loving that Ange Postecoglou currently has. And we've all decided, whether we say it publicly or not, that he's the best football scout in the world as well. We've all made our mind up. If he picks a player, it's amazing. We're all part of that fanboy sort of thing, not fanboyfootball.com, but we're all like part of that fanboy sort of attitude where, you know, anything Ange says, we are very much the disciples.
He can go down to the local park and pick out a 10-year-old boy that he thinks is going to be the next big thing. We'd be telling him to get him signed straight away, no questions. A strap.
First team ready. But yeah, I suppose with that, there is a huge focus that will be turned back then to things that we discussed last summer that seemed so important back then, talking about heads of recruitment, talking about backroom teams, talking about Celtic's philosophy, you know, for the next 5 years, what the strategy was. It all seems so relevant. Postecoglou's came in and kind of put those arguments on the back burner. I happen to feel Jota and CCV are going to bring all those arguments back to the light, particularly if Celtic were to win the league. I think all those debates will come back to the light this summer. And it's the last thing we need. All we need is the board to play ball with Celtic, with Ange. We need the Celtic board to play ball with him. He's absolutely played ball with us. Ange ball, if you like. And it's time now that if he does deliver, which, like I say, at the top of the show, I believe he will deliver, then we've got to be playing ball. And I know we've went on a mad tangent from Cameron Carter Vickers, but is there anything else you were wanting to discuss tonight, Jonathon, before we say cheerio?
No, I think we've kind of covered off most points. I think it's going to be a bit of a quieter week, this week, sadly, with international football getting in the way. I feel like they add more and more of these breaks in for no reason whatsoever. But obviously, it just means there's going to be an even bigger build-up, a lot more tension in the air ahead of the big one a week on Sunday.
Totally. Absolutely. And we're looking forward to that. We will be doing other shows. Just a wee quick update as well. I think people have been, there was a lot of comments on the channel after the weekend talking about Regan. I don't know how that's panning out over there, but Regan will be getting a regular slot on the bus, if not all right. So fear not. He is making a step up in the world. It's a joke. Everyone stay calm. Honestly, stay calm. Anyway, Jonathan, it's time to play some music. We are sitting with over 100 folk watching on a Monday night. This is Boyce's Monday Club. That's been joined, and we all know who he's talking about.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.